Karen came to the house. She's very upset. This is no good. You gotta straighten this thing out.
Think back to a gangster film that didn't just play on screen but felt like you were right inside it. Back when Goodfellas dropped in 1990, Martin Scorsese turns Henry Hill's real life into pure mob chaos, and it hits different. Ray Liotta steps in as Henry, Robert De Niro brings that ice-cold energy as Jimmy Conway, Lorraine Bracco plays Karen Hill, the woman who looks at the whole madness and still thinks, oh yeah, this is the one. And Joe Pesci as Tommy DeVito makes simple dinner talk feel like walking on glass. Every scene carries pressure. Based on Nicholas P's book, Wise Guy, the story follows Henry's climb through organized crime, the high life, and the slow breakdown that drags everything into court. It shows how fast loyalty flips when the heat shows up. Today we're breaking down 10 wild facts about Goodfellas, and you better stay locked in for number 10 because Henry Hill went through the mob, the feds, and witness protection and still found a way to mess things up himself. That part alone is crazy. Before we jump deeper, hit like, subscribe, and pass this to someone who still quotes this movie at dinner. Do I amuse you? Do I make you laugh? And with that, let's get into it. Number 1. The famous Copacabana shot was never even supposed to happen. That single take ended up setting the standard for every flashy first date fantasy in America from 1990 onward. If your date didn't glide you through a hidden back entrance while the whole place shifts around you, it feels like you missed something big. This scene almost never existed at all, and the story behind it is messy in the best way, and it nearly got cut before anyone even saw its magic unfold. Crazy stuff. The back entrance was always the real route Henry used in real life, slipping straight through the kitchen while everyone else waited outside like they didn't matter. Scorsese originally wanted a cleaner shortcut through an adjacent hallway to make the movement smoother and faster to shoot, but the building owners next door were locked in a bitter feud with the Copa owners, and they refused access completely, not even for filming, so everything got blocked off fast, forcing Scorsese to rebuild the entire path from scratch, turning a simple idea into a complex maze of movement and timing that nobody could fake easily, not even once. No way around it. What followed was pure chaos behind the camera. Scorsese turned the hallway into a moving puzzle where nothing could slip. Everything had to land perfectly in one continuous shot with no cuts at all. Camera operators had to walk backwards through tight spaces while keeping the shot steady. Actors had to hit every line like clockwork, and the entire crew had to move like a single machine with no room for error. One small mistake meant resetting everything from the start, and that pressure pushed everyone to the edge every single take until perfection finally showed up on camera. No shortcuts, no mercy, just focus and tension, nonstop energy. Always. It didn't just show a cool entrance. It showed exactly who Henry Hill was without saying a single word. This is a guy who never uses the front door, never waits in line. He just moves like the world is already cleared for him. Two feuding landlords accidentally handed Scorsese one of the most studied shots in film history, all because access was blocked and creativity had to take over completely. The Copa said no in the back door and it became a legend. Number 2, the funny house scene wasn't just acting, it felt like pressure building in real time until the whole table snaps. That how am I funny moment jumps from a light compliment to full-on dinner table tension in about 10 seconds flat, and it hits harder every time you watch it. Joe Pesci didn't just make it up either, he pulled it straight from real life. Back when he was working as a waiter, he told a customer who was connected to that world that he was funny, fully meaning it as respect, fully saying it like a normal person would. But the response he got flipped everything instantly. The guy locked eyes with him and turned it into something completely different. What do you mean I'm funny? Wasn't a joke anymore. It was a challenge hanging in the air with no smile behind it. Just weight and silence that changed the whole room in seconds. Pesci never forgot that moment. It stuck with him for years. He brought the story to Scorsese during rehearsals, and instead of tossing it aside, Scorsese kept pushing it with Pesci and Liotta over and over, shaping it like something dangerous, being carefully tuned. Then he slipped it into the script without warning the rest of the cast, letting it land completely raw on set. And that's where it gets wild. Most of the actors sitting around that table had no idea how far Pesci was about to go, and you can see it hit them in real time. The nervous laughs, the sideways looks, the tension building across the room, all of it is real reaction caught on camera with no safety net. Scorsese kept every second because it couldn't be faked. Pesci basically turned a random restaurant shift into one of the most uncomfortable, unforgettable dinner scenes ever filmed. Number 3. That sweet old lady wasn't just some background extra, she was Martin Scorsese's actual mom, and it makes one of the wildest scene transitions in Goodfellas hit even harder. 1 minute, Billy Batts is getting beaten nearly to death and stuffed into a trunk, and the next second you're inside a warm kitchen with pasta on the table and calm conversation flowing like nothing happened at all. That sudden switch feels almost unreal, and right in the middle of it is Catherine Scorsese, Martin Scorsese's real mother. She had been showing up in his films for years, and she never worked from traditional scripts. Scorsese's direction was simple every time. Just show up, be yourself, and serve the food. And that's exactly what she did with zero hesitation and full natural energy. The painting talk, the stories about dogs, even the soft push about Tommy finding a nice girl, all of it was completely improvised and totally real in the moment. No script holding it together, just instinct and personality flowing naturally. And here's the part that really twists it. She had no idea there was a half-conscious man stuffed in a trunk outside in the driveway while she calmly kept topping off everyone's wine like it was just another family dinner night. She plays it warm, comforting, and completely unbothered because in her world there's nothing to be disturbed about at all. And if you look closely, there's more family in the frame, too. Scorsese's father, Charles, even appears in the film playing Vinny, one of Paul's crew. So yeah, Goodfellas didn't just cast actors, it basically pulled in the director's entire family and dropped them straight into the middle of a mob world with no filter and no separation at all. Number 4, the movie swore way more than anyone originally planned, and it basically took on a life of its own. The script for Goodfellas only called for around 70 uses of the F-bomb, which already sounds intense, but still controlled on paper. Then the final cut dropped and boom, it hit around 300 total uses. That's not a small jump. That's the entire vocabulary getting flipped upside down in real time on set. A lot of that spike came from the actors treating the script like a base idea instead of strict rules. Once the cameras rolled, things just started flowing raw and unfiltered, with roughly 230 extra F-bombs landing through improvisation alone. That breaks down to about 2 per minute across the entire runtime, and it doesn't even spare the quiet scenes where things feel calm on the surface, but still carry that sharp edge underneath. Joe Pesci especially runs the energy up in every direction, whether people were ready for it or not. His character Tommy DeVito talks like punctuation doesn't exist, and every sentence feels like it's about to explode at any second. By comparison, everyone else starts sounding almost calm, like they're narrating a completely different world while Tommy is operating on pure chaos frequency. It's like profanity becomes a second language in the film, and somehow it all still feels natural instead of forced or messy. That's the wild part. It doesn't break the realism, it builds it stronger. And that raw language didn't make the movie feel sloppy at all. It made it feel lived in and real. These weren't actors just hitting lines off a page. They were fully locked into a world where this kind of talk was just everyday survival energy. The film even set a record for profanity at the time of release, and Scorsese didn't stop there. He went on to break his own record again with Casino and then The Wolf of Wall Street, like he had a whole system for turning dialogue into controlled chaos. Number 5, the cash wasn't fake and nobody was walking offset until every single dollar was accounted for. In most Hollywood productions, prop money has been the standard for decades, safe, controlled, and totally replaceable if anything goes wrong. But Goodfellas didn't play by those rules, especially when Robert De Niro stepped in. For the scenes where Jimmy Conway casually throws around stacks of cash like it's just another day in a broken system, De Niro refused to use fake bills entirely. He wanted real money on camera, real weight, real texture, real movement in the hands, because to him it just didn't feel right otherwise. That decision instantly turned a simple prop request into a logistical headache for production. The solution ended up being surprisingly extreme. The prop master personally went to the bank and withdrew $5,000 of his own money, then brought it straight onto set like it was just another piece of equipment. Suddenly the film set wasn't just acting anymore. It had real financial stakes sitting in plain sight under bright studio lights. From that moment on, every scene involving the cash became tightly controlled and almost tense behind the scenes. After every take, assistants rushed in immediately to collect every single bill without missing a corner or stack. Then came the counting, twice over, slow and careful, no shortcuts, no distractions, no movement from anyone until everything matched perfectly. Nobody packed up early, nobody drifted away, nobody even relaxed until that $5,000 was fully confirmed and secured back into place. What should have been simple movie magic turned into a high-pressure accounting operation, with cameras rolling, where realism wasn't just performance, it had to be physically tracked down and verified every single time. Number 6, that prosecutor in Goodfellas wasn't acting at all. He was basically just replaying his own real life on camera. The film leans hard into authenticity at every level. Real streets, real slang, real money on set, and then in the final act it goes even further by bringing in an actual federal prosecutor to play himself. Edward McDonald was the real U.S. attorney who handled Henry Hill's case and helped negotiate the family's entry into witness protection. And the way he ended up in the movie sounds almost like a scene itself. The production team originally sent a crew member to his office just to photograph the space and grab small details for set design. But McDonald got suspicious fast, wondering why everything was being documented like that, and realized he might never see those items again, so he asked a simple question: who's playing me? And when he found out nobody had been cast yet, he straight up volunteered himself for the role. The studio called him back to confirm if he was serious, and he was completely locked in. Scorsese then brought him in for what was basically a live test instead of a traditional audition. He had TTA and Lorraine Bracco fire rapid, improvised questions at McDonald right on the spot, and McDonald responded in his own words without hesitation or rehearsal. No acting tricks, no script safety net, just pure memory and lived experience coming out in real time. Scorsese watched for a few minutes and said, "That was great, you'll be hearing from us in the..." And that was it. The courtroom negotiation scene with Henry and Karen isn't just inspired by real events, it's basically the actual conversation that happened in real life. McDonald wasn't interpreting history from someone else's point of view, he was just repeating what he lived through. Even his line telling Karen to drop the babe in the woods routine wasn't scripted, it slipped out naturally during one of only a few takes, and Scorsese kept it immediately. McDonald later said he probably only used that phrase once in his entire career, but Hollywood spent millions trying to recreate reality, and Scorsese just brought in the man who actually stood in it. Number 7, Robert De Niro didn't just do research for Goodfellas, he basically turned it into a full-time obsession that probably deserved its own credit line. Most actors prepare for roles, sure, but De Niro took it to another level entirely while shaping Jimmy Conway into something that felt disturbingly real. The cast already had direct access to the real Henry Hill, who was being paid to consult and keep things accurate behind the scenes. Hill later claimed the final film was about 95% accurate, which is already wild, considering how intense and chaotic the story actually is in real life. But De Niro wasn't satisfied with close enough or general accuracy. He wanted every tiny detail locked down with precision. At the peak of his preparation, he was reportedly calling Henry Hill up to 8 times a day, treating it less like research and more like a non-stop information pipeline. And it wasn't even about the big dramatic mob moments. He was focused on the smallest, most oddly specific habits imaginable. How Jimmy held a cigarette, how he passed cash from one hand to another, how he poured ketchup, even down to how he tapped a bottle before pouring it. At one point, he allegedly asked about condiment technique like it was a critical life skill, and Hill answered every question like it was completely normal. That level of obsession ended up paying off on screen in a big way. Every gesture, every casual movement, every small interaction feels like it comes from someone who actually lived that life instead of just acting it out. And then there's Joe Pesci as Tommy DeVito, who somehow matched that realism and energy, but not in physical form. The real Tommy was over 6 feet tall and built like a tank, while Pesci is around 5'4" on a good day. Completely different size, same unpredictable intensity, and somehow it still works perfectly without breaking the illusion. Number 8. Henry Hill channeled real grief into one of the darkest, most emotionally charged moments in Goodfellas, and it shows in every frame. Karen has had enough of the situation, and her neighbor Bruce across the street isn't just talking reckless, he actually crosses a line and gets physical with her. When Henry hears about it, he doesn't calm down or think it through. He grabs his gun and goes straight into full rage mode, pistol whipping the guy in a violent blur that escalates fast and ugly. What looks like pure uncontrolled anger on screen had something much heavier feeding into it behind the scenes. During production, Ray Liotta received a phone call on set that his mother was dying of cancer and didn't have much time left. He rushed to be with her and made it in time, staying with her as she passed away in his arms. He didn't really talk about it publicly for years, keeping that weight mostly to himself while still finishing the film afterward. So when that brutal pistol whipping scene comes up, that energy hits differently. The assistant director Joseph Reedy noted that Liotta had just taken another call about his mother right before rolling cameras, and Liotta himself later summed it up simply, "I was wound up." That's not performance rage, that's real emotional pressure spilling straight into the character. People on set felt it too. Director of photography Michael Ballhaus pointed out that Liotta often went beyond what was planned, pushing physical intensity in a way that forced everyone around him to stay locked in. Illeana Douglas later said it felt like his real-life grief was bleeding directly into the scene in real time, and Scorsese didn't cut it short, he just kept the camera rolling and let it happen. What you get in the final cut doesn't feel choreographed at all, it feels like an actual breakdown, captured as it unfolds, raw and unfiltered with no safety net. Even Henry Hill's mindset and narration connects to it when he says, "For us to live any other way was nuts." And that energy carries straight through the chaos of that moment like a live wire snapping loose. Number 9. A scene looks so real it actually sent someone to the ER, and the chaos behind it is almost unbelievable. Spider is a young errand boy working for the crew, mostly running drinks, staying out of trouble, and trying his best not to catch the attention of the wrong people. He doesn't exactly succeed at staying invisible. Tommy ends up shooting him twice in the scene, once for being annoying and again just for talking back about it. It's played almost casually, and that calm delivery is exactly what makes it feel so unsettling and heavy at the same time. There was a stunt double ready for the fall, but Michael Imperioli refused it completely. He wanted to do it himself for realism. The prop team was supposed to provide breakaway sugar glass, the kind designed to shatter safely on cue. Instead, a real drinking glass ended up in his hands by mistake, and that changed everything in an instant. When Imperioli hit the bar and went down, the glass broke in a way nobody expected, and he ended up with cuts on his fingers. He looked up from the floor and saw Robert De Niro standing over him, still fully in character, which made the moment feel even more intense than it already was. A production assistant rushed him to the nearest ER in Queens, and things escalated fast. The hospital staff saw him covered in stage blood with what looked like multiple serious injuries and immediately treated it like a full emergency situation. Imperioli tried explaining over and over that it was just a movie shoot, that everything was fine, and that he had been working with Robert De Niro. But in that moment, covered in fake blood and adrenaline, it honestly sounded like the exact kind of confused explanation you'd expect from someone in real trouble. Nobody believed him at first. It took the medical team carefully checking and realizing the situation was from filming, including spotting the hidden squib equipment underneath, before everything calmed down. Once they confirmed there were no serious injuries beyond a couple of cuts, the panic finally dropped. The hospital even sent him back to wait for stitches like it was just another weird Tuesday in Queens. After all of that, Imperioli still went back to set afterward like nothing happened. The dedication was wild, and honestly, the dry cleaning bill alone probably told its own story. Number 10, Joe Pesci delivered one of the quietest acceptance speeches right after giving one of the loudest performances in the entire movie, and that contrast is almost unreal. Throughout Goodfellas, Pesci is constantly on full volume, yelling, threatening, and making every scene feel like it could explode at any second. His energy is chaotic, unpredictable, and impossible to ignore, and it became one of the defining forces of the film. At the 1991 Oscars, Goodfellas picked up 6 nominations, but only 2 of the cast members were individually recognized by the Academy. Lorraine Bracco was nominated for Best Supporting Actress, and Joe Pesci was nominated for Best Supporting Actor. Bracco didn't take home the win, but Pesci did. And when his name was called, everything shifted instantly. He walked up to the microphone and delivered one of the shortest acceptance speeches in Oscar history, clocking in at roughly 3 seconds. No long list of thank yous, no emotional buildup, no dramatic pause with the statue held high. Just a quick, almost stunned moment, and it was over before most people could even process it. What makes it even more surprising is that Pesci genuinely didn't expect to win. He was up against heavy names like Al Pacino and Andy Garcia, so in his mind the night was just a nice appearance, not a victory lap. Because of that, he didn't prepare anything at all. Then his name gets announced, and on the walk-up he basically decides in real time that a few words are enough. No extra emotion, no performance, just a simple, efficient moment, and done. It ended up being the only win Goodfellas took home that night, which makes it even more iconic. 3 seconds on stage, 1 statue in hand, and not a single unnecessary word from the same man who spent the whole movie making silence feel unsafe and dialogue feel like chaos. And there you have it. 10 wild, weird, and straight up unbelievable facts about Goodfellas, the movie that somehow made pasta feel dangerous and turned "How am I funny" into a line nobody says comfortably at dinner since 1990. Which fact surprised you the most? Like, drop it in the comments and let it sit there, because there's always one detail in this film that hits a little harder than the rest. And if you've got a friend who can quote Henry Hill's voiceover word for word like it's second nature, share this with them right now. They'll get it instantly. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring that bell so you don't miss what's coming next, because unlike Henry Hill, we're not blowing our cover anytime soon. Everything stays tight. Everything stays moving. So hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives like this, and share it around if you enjoyed it. And until next time, this is $21